In today's show, the Blazers try a new starting lineup, Damian Lillard returns to the court, and they still lose a home game to the Timberwolves. Yuck. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazer reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and now also on YouTube. That means if you are listening to my voice now, please go to YouTube and subscribe to the show. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers by New Year's. That's 2,000 subscribers by 2022. We cannot get there. We can't even approach it without your help. So go now. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that subscribe button. It's not going to hurt. We post a new episode 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, every day of the week, right here on this channel. And if you're a podcast listener and maybe not a YouTube person, still go support the show. Pause the podcast or head over to YouTube right now and subscribe to the show. Support the show. Join the network. Join the community. See into my basement setup. You can see into my studio. All that fun stuff. We got a fun show for you today. Depending, I guess, on your definition of fun, but a jam-packed full episode for you today. The Blazers lost 116-111 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yuck. Gross. A new starting lineup. Damian Lillard back on the court for the first time after missing 5 games. And then we'll close the show with a little Blazers moment of joy because we need joy in our lives. Stick with us for a Blazers moment of joy. If you haven't experienced that, you'll enjoy it. I promise with you. Else we'll do to close the show. But first, we'll do what we do this time, the fastest recap in the West. The Blazers lose 116-111, as I mentioned, and they were down early, 33-26 after one. Damian Lillard 4 turnovers in his return to the starting lineup. That starting lineup was a new one. It was Dame, Norman Powell, Nassir Little, Larry Nance Jr., and Jusuf Nurkic. No Cody Zeller in this one, missed the game with a cracked patellar bone, like his cracked kneecap in his leg. He's going to be out reevaluated in a week. We'll see how long he's out, but at least 1 week. And that sounds like something that could be a little bit longer. And no CJ McCollum in this one either. He's still out dealing with a collapsed right lung. So the Blazers go with the new starting lineup, and it didn't matter. They were down early, 33-26, like I said, after one. Down one at the break, 56-55. And they were still in the game because Norman Powell had 11 and Anfernee Simons had 11. A big night for Ant. Damian Lillard led them at halftime with 12 points, but he was 3 of 8 from the floor, 1 of 6 from 3, and 5 of 6 the free throw line. Karl-Anthony Towns 19 points in the first half. Big night for Cat. Blazers down 5 at the end of 3 quarters, and because of foul trouble to Jusuf Nurkic and Larry Nance Jr., Trendon Watford played 7 minutes in the third quarter. A 7-minute cameo for the Blazers' undrafted two-way player. The Blazers short on bigs. The roster just isn't built for it because we got 4 minutes of Trendon Watford. Blazers +4 in those 7 minutes. Down 5 after 3, and then the Blazers came roaring out of the gates to open that fourth quarter. They actually seized a 7-point lead with just over 7 minutes left. And when Damian Lillard missed a 3-pointer that would have pushed it to 10, their largest lead of the game with 7 minutes and 20 seconds left, they basically collapsed from that point forward. Dame misses a shot and the game just goes sideways. Timberwolves come all the way back. D'Angelo Russell hits back-to-back step-back threes, ties the game at 104, and from the 3:56 mark to the 55-second mark, the Blazers scored 2 points. The game just got away from them. They were, they're up 2, and then all of a sudden they're down 6 with a minute left. It's just, they just did not score in the closing seconds during that stretch. They went 0 for 4 with a turnover. Brutal stuff, and that's how you lose 116-111. You collapse late in the fourth quarter and don't score. That's your fastest recap in the West. Oh, man. Damian Lillard finished with 24 points, 5 of 17 shooting. He was 3 of 14 from 3, 11 of 15 at the free throw line. His first game back after missing 5 games. He added 11 rebounds and 6 assists. Not a good Dame game. Looked short. He said he felt really good. Like, he said he felt fine. He said, his body felt really good and he was moving around, that he was just short. And he said he got tired at the end just because, it's tough to not play NBA basketball for 2 weeks and then try to come back and play. But, just watching him, this was not Dame back. This did not make you feel good about Dame's health, to not make you feel good about where he's at as a basketball player right now. It's just another night, yet another night of him having, of being inefficient. 5 of 17 on the floor. True shooting wise, not a terrible night, but he did miss four free throws. The big night offensively was Anfernee Simons, who had hit 6 3-pointers, 26 points off the bench for the Blazers. They also had 5 threes from McLemore. He had 15 points. He was a plus 17 in 15 minutes. Due to his instant offense, and when he's on, he doesn't really do much else but shoot, and sometimes he doesn't shoot that well, but when he does, he is a professional shooter. 15 points from Norman Powell, who was fine in this game, and 10 from Nas, who started. Larry Nance, 8 points, 12 boards, 3 assists. Robert Covington, an all-time great Covington line. 1 of 6 from the floor, 1 of 5 from 3, 5 boards, 3 assists, 5 steals, 4 blocks, plus 9. Covington was good and played 34 minutes off the bench. He just couldn't shoot tonight. On the other side, Karl-Anthony Towns, 23 points, 10 boards, 4 assists, 19 in the first half, really got it going. And Anthony Edwards, who had 24, he sat late in the second half with foul trouble, came back in and was a problem. D'Angelo Russell wasn't great in this game, but he hit 2 really big ones in the final 3 minutes to the game was slipping away from the T-Wolves, and he made sure it didn't slip away, and then the Blazers melted down. I really came away from this game, this was supposed to be the Dame back game, right? We're Dame back, and I came away from this game thinking a couple different things. Like, one, the starting lineup wasn't quite enough, and we'll talk about that in the second segment. But 2, this group is just, they've got a way, they're just a ways away. After the game, they kind of said the right things. Larry Nance and Damian Lillard and Chauncey Billups spoke to the media, and they said the right things. That they played well, but they have been inconsistent, and that's been the theme all year. And it's you put together some good stretches and some bad stretches, and what they're missing is that ability to put the good stretches together. And they just got to figure out how to win. And Larry Nance said I'm willing to do whatever it takes, and winning is most important, blah, blah, blah. And Billups said, we just got to get healthy. We're finally healthy now. Now we can worry about playing a little bit better. And he didn't even say we're finally healthy. We're back to closer health. Dame's in the lineup, still no CJ, no Cody Zeller, but health was such a big concern over the last 2 weeks that now that we're healthy, then we can start worrying about basketball. But this team is, they're 11-16, and they've lost, and they're just, dropping home games now. they lost 4 straight home games. They started 10-1 at home, and it felt really, it felt like this was okay. Well, they can't take it on the road with them. They've now lost 4 in a row. And their only win in this stretch after really struggling is, I believe they lost 8 of 9 is a win over the Pistons, where they didn't play particularly well. And the Pistons are the worst team in the NBA right now. So they're in a bad spot. They tried something new, and that's what I want to talk about in the second segment. They went to this new lineup. Let's spend some minutes, sort of discussing why and what we saw from that. But the little tweaks, the moving guys around, it's just not going to be enough for them right now. They are not in a good spot. Let's talk about the new lineup though, because it wasn't this huge change, but it represents one of the few things you can do if before you blow this thing to rubble and rebuild it. It's one of the few things you can do is change the lineup, and Chauncey Billups tried that tonight. Let's talk about what we saw from that new starting group. But first, let's talk about DirecTV. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Listen, if you're like me, watching TV can mean juggling remotes. It can mean juggling devices. It can mean remembering logins. It can mean saying, hey, actually, I don't have that app on my phone. I have it on my computer. Let's go here. Let's go there. It's just trickier than you want. So if you're looking for a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle, a great way to finally get your TV together, that's DirecTV Stream. It brings you live TV and on-demand favorites like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. All right. So we talked about the Blazers 116, 111 loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Blazers aren't very good right now. This is a bad loss in a season filled with them. They're not a good team, but the Timberwolves had lost 5 in a row coming in this game. They're the longest losing streak in the Western Conference. Before that, they'd won 7 of 8, and it was like, oh, Minnesota's kind of good. And then they just totally scuffled. And this was a game you have to win. Like, there's no such thing as a must-win game during the regular season until you get to the last week. So then, like, these games still matter. But, like, the Blazers looking ahead of their schedule, it's Phoenix and it's Memphis and it's Charlotte. Like, those are good basketball teams. Even as shorthanded as Memphis is, they're a good basketball team. And Phoenix is one of the best teams in the league, if not the best team in the league. Like, you look at the schedule this week, a scuffling Minnesota team at home with Dame back in the lineup. This is a game you win. This is a game you just win. If you're a team that is headed anywhere but the dumpster, you win this game and set the Blazers lose. I'm not going to come down too crazy hard on them because I think just talking with fans and people on Twitter.com is like, the Blazers aren't very good. This wasn't like a shocking loss, but to me, this was a bad loss, capital B bad loss in a season filled with them. This was not a heartening game or a game that gave you like a glimmer of hope. After the game, Larry Nance tried to say, oh, there's some positive things, like Anfernee Simons is really good. And Ben McLemore was good. And Trendon Watford gave those 7 good minutes. And that's all true. It's all true. Absolutely. 7 great minutes from Trendon Watford, from two-way at the end of the bench to like, hey, we need your size. Come basically play center for us or power forward next to Robert Covington playing center, and Ben McLemore, professional shooter, call him up off the bench, and Anfernee Simons, a bucket. Dude's a bucket. It's absolutely a bucket. But 2 6'3" shooters, McLemore and Anfernee Simons, is not the solution that this particular iteration of the Blazers needs. Maybe another iteration coming here in January, but not this iteration of the Blazers. I don't see a lot of positives, but I did see a major change. The starting lineup represents to me Billups saying, hey, I don't have many answers left. He had said he had contemplated a lineup change maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, and just never went to it. But then he went to it, and he went to it now to give length and hoping for a little bit better defense. And the Blazers didn't have that. In fact, in the first, foul trouble complicated this game for sure, but also like defending without fouling is part of being good defensively. I will say, since I recorded this, Jusuf Nurkic has posted 3 of his fouls on his Instagram stories to complain specifically about the fouls, like in a subtle way or a not so subtle way, if you're someone who can see what he's doing. So certainly it was, there was some frustration in the Blazers locker room, and Larry Nance mentioned as much that he was frustrated too. And Billups he just said like fouls, always kind of change up what your plan is. But, Nance only didn't even play a full 5 minutes in the first quarter. So they played 4 minutes and 16 seconds together, this new starting group, and they were outscored by 4 points. Not a terrible start, but like if you were looking for an inspired start against a bad or a not particularly good, we should say, Timberwolves team, a game in 4-6 on the road when they arrived here in Portland. Again, losers of 5 straight, the longest losing streak in the Western Conference. First 4 minutes, you're losing. You're already losing. They did something a little bit different with that starting group where they put Larry Nance on Cat and let that's Karl-Anthony Towns and put Jusuf Nurkic on Jared Vanderbilt to let Nurk play like kind of like center field or freelance a little bit, like be the helper guy. And I thought Nurk did that I don't think it was supernatural for Nurk. I think Larry would be better at that naturally, but then if you put Nurk on Cat, it might be a quickness issue and they might be able to get pick and pops. Like I understood why they did it. It just didn't work. Sometimes you just don't have the right personnel, but the Blazers went back to that starting lineup in the second half, and the second half started with a 12-1 run by the T-Wolves to open up that third quarter. And then there were Nance got another foul like 2.5 minutes into the 2.5 minutes into the second quarter, and they had to bail on that starting group again and bring in subs off the bench, bring in Norm off the bench. So like it got derailed by fouls, but it also didn't work. That starting group played another 58 seconds together in the fourth quarter, and they were outscored on one. They didn't score on one possession and gave up. They committed a foul and gave up 2 free throws. They were split. So for the game, they finished -16 in 7 minutes and 42 seconds together. It was just bad. That group didn't work together, and part of the reason they didn't work together is because Larry Nance is a weird fit next to Jusuf Nurkic. As the reason why Chauncey Billups has avoided it to this point, asking Nance to be a floor spacer takes away what he's good at, which is being involved in pick and rolls, and being diving as a roll man and spacing to the dunker spot, which is like the space, a step outside the lane on the baseline. That's where he's going to do his damage. And if you put him at the 4, he's at the corners and at the arc. And it's just, first of all, he doesn't want to shoot. So sometimes he hesitates to take open threes. And he's not a particularly good shooter, 0 for 2 on threes. And I thought both of them were wide open. And on one of those possessions, he missed a 3 and got it back and had another look at it, chose not to shoot, and ended up, Rocco had to force up a late clock 3. Like, he's a 5. Larry Nance is a 5. I thought he could play more 4, but he can't play 4 with this group next to Nurk particularly well. They can be pretty good on offense, but all year long, that group has been bad. Him and Nurk have been bad on offense together and good on defense. Same thing tonight. Just the offense was clunky with them in there. The spacing is weird and it takes away what Nance is best at. And then, if there's, less room for Nurk to post up and all these things because you can help off Nance, and it's just, it's not ideal. I like the idea of it, and I wouldn't go away from it necessarily because the Blazers' other starting group, when they go 3 guards, or just if you leave Rocco in that group, has getting torched on defense. Like, they're just getting torched. So you don't necessarily, like, a change was warranted and necessary, but I guess there's only so many buttons you can push. Like, this team has limitations, and you're seeing it. They're missing some frontline depth, hence Trent and Watford. They're missing real versatility to be able to play a bunch of different shapes. I thought they'd have more versatility this year, and they just don't, because Rocco hasn't been super good. And Nance and Nurk aren't a good fit together. Like, that's a surprise to me, straight up. It's a surprise to me that you're benching Robert Covington for defense. Tonight, though, Covington, like I said, 5 steals, 4 blocks, and I thought he played really well, did everything but shoot, and he played 34 minutes off the bench, like way more than he typically plays. Some of that was foul trouble, some of that was matchup stuff. They closed the game small with Rocco and Nance in there and not Nurk, just because it wasn't a good Nurk night, and this wasn't a particularly good matchup for him. They wanted to switch everything. I don't know if I agree with them wanting to switch everything, but that's kind of what they wanted to do. I'm not saying the lineup, get rid of it. I'm just saying it didn't work, and it didn't work for obvious reasons, and it didn't work for reasons that might continue to show up. But the Blazers I think they need to give it a couple more games if they're committed to it. I think, like, the sign of good coaching is make a decision and stick with it for a little bit. They stuck with that first starting group for 25 games. I'm not suggesting 25 more games of this, dear God, no, but like 2 or 3, try it against Phoenix and Memphis. Phoenix is really good. Might not matter what you do, and try it against Memphis. And if you start to get some rhythm, start to see some things you like, and start to become a more functional defensive team, and Dame makes shots, then you might win the game. Like, some of this is like, Dame goes 3 of 14 from 3. If he shoots like a normal percentage, not normal, because this is about what he's been this year, but like, if he shoots sort of like the typical Dame of the last 5 seasons, 38% from 3, the Blazers probably win. So a lot of it is just like if Dame makes shots, but the starting group didn't play well together, and it didn't play well together in a very predictable way. It's just not enough. This team needs more. The shakeup is going to come from not like moving deck chairs around on the Titanic. It's going to become from bailing out. Like, it's going to come from trades and redoing the roster. And we'll talk about all of that. We're going to record a mailbag. It'll be Tuesday. The show, this is Monday's show. It'll be in your feed December 13th. On December 14th, Tuesday show, we'll do a mailbag. We'll talk trades. A bunch of you are curious about Domantas Sabonis and Miles Turner and yada, yada, yada. Like, we'll talk about about some maybe bigger structural moves that the Blazers could chase. But for right now, you look at the starting lineup change and you think, yeah, okay, good idea. Give it another shot. It didn't work tonight. It might not work again in the future, but you can't keep bumping your head against the same part of the ceiling. You might as well go bump your head into the wall over on the other side of the room at some point. At least change up how you fail. So I'm in favor of experimenting with it, but I am not surprised it hasn't worked. None of the Nurk Nance lineups all year long have looked particularly good numbers wise or with the eye test, and I think it was the exact same thing tonight. That's enough negativity. Let's come back in the third segment and close out the show with a little Blazers moment of joy. We did these all off season long, and I'm bringing them back because we need a moment of joy. I asked listeners to send me moments they fell in love with the Blazers, or why the Blazers bring them joy, and people shared various moments of sort of what Blazers moment of joy meant to them. And so a listener was kind enough to send one in, so I will read that for you, share that with you rather, in the third segment to close out the show. But before we do that, let's talk about Built Bar. It's the best tasting protein bar that there is. That's what they're doing. They're making delicious protein bars. there's not a lot of trick to it. They're just delicious. I've been eating protein bars. I've been eating Built Bars for a long time. I think they've been a sponsor for a couple years. I tried them first when they first kind of came on board with the network, and I said, these rock. And I have since regularly spent my own money to purchase Built Bars. The ones I really like are cookies and cream and peanut butter brownie, but you'll find something. You want fruity flavors like strawberry or orange. You want double chocolate, salted caramel. You'll find what you like. And they got new limited time flavors all the time. If you go to built.com, you can see those. They also got a bunch of other protein products like Built Boost and Built Broth. Like you can, if you're, you can find something that's going to sort of fit the profile of what you're looking for, and they're going to taste great. Like the bars are just delicious, and they pack a real punch. 17 to 18 grams of protein, 130 to 180 calories, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 5 grams of net carbs. Go get yourself some. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. You get 15% off your next order. That is built.com for 15% off. Today's show, also brought to you by BetOnline.ag, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports actions. Got you covered all season long. More props, more odds, more lines than ever before. So as football season heads into the playoffs and as basketball season heads into the thick of its regular season with many, many games every single night, BetOnline remains your number one spot for all your sports action. So head on over to their website, betonline.ag, sign up today, and use the promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get a 50% welcome bonus if you are a new customer making their first deposit. That's locked on for a 50% welcome bonus. They got basketball, football, NHL, boxing, UFC, soccer, here and abroad, even your favorite Vegas casino games. It's all right there waiting for you. So don't wait. Take advantage of all these amazing offers, all the fun you can now have over at betonline.ag. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. Still listening to Locked on Blazers. We talked about the Blazers' loss to the Timberwolves. Yuck. We talked about the Blazers' new starting lineup. Fine, whatever. But it's dark days here in Blazerland. I'm under the impression that Joe Cronin has been pretty straightforward. Big changes are coming. They're on the horizon. So I don't want to belabor that this roster stinks right now, but they stink. They're not good. They're not a good basketball team, and this was a bad loss in a season filled with them. So we need a little palate cleanser, and this is your palate cleanser. All off-season long, sort of when the Blazers off-season started to get a little bit chaotic, I said, we need some Blazers moments of joy, reminders of why we love this team, and I sent a call out into the world to say, hey, dear listeners, send me your Blazers moments of joy, whatever that might mean to you. The moment you fell in love with the Blazers, your first Blazer memory, a reason why you love this team or why the Blazers bring you joy. We got all types of different stories. And it's just a reminder to hold tightly to what you love about this team and remember what you love about this team, because often the world is challenging and the basketball's bad. So it's good to remind yourself and others in your community, in your basketball Blazer basketball loving community, why you fell in love with this team or why they bring you joy. So luckily, listener Brett was kind enough to send in this story that I'm going to share with you now. Here it is from Brett. I live in Perth, Australia, the most isolated capital city in the world. This story begins in 2001. 9/11 had just happened, and I had tickets to America to visit a friend in Portland. I was coming a Bulls fan, but really a Michael Jordan fan. He wasn't a Bull anymore, and I didn't know it at the time. I arrived, but I was about to fall for another team. As an early Christmas present, the parents of my friend bought us 2 tickets to see Blazers versus Orlando Magic, December 15th, 2001. So I went to the Rose Garden, having already been to a national basketball games in Australia. Go Perth Wildcats. Go Perth Wildcats. I thought I knew what I was in for. Firstly, the size of the place made me gasp for air, seeing the banners in the rafters, then sitting down and seeing the blimp thing flying around. But when the lights went out and they announced the starting 5, I couldn't take my eyes off the court. It was so much bigger and brighter than anything I'd seen before in Perth. The game started and Portland got off to a great start, but the Magic reeled them in the second and third quarters. The fourth started and Rasheed Wallace and Tracy McGrady took over the game, going back and forth with threes and dunks and 2 of the most amazing performances. Portland won the game and me over by 11 points. But it felt closer than that. I remember getting really nervous about Orlando coming home with a wet sail and T-Mac not missing near the end until he did. The Magic had Horace Grant and Mike Miller and Monty Williams and Patrick Ewing playing. The Blazers had Ruben Patterson, Damon Stoudemire, Derek Anderson, and Sean Kemp, while Zach Randolph and Bonzi Wells were on the bench and didn't play. The game was jam-packed with legends, like Grant Hill, who was sitting on the bench for the Magic wearing a suit and tie, out injured. Bummer. I've always had it on my bucket list to get back to the Rose Garden, now the Moda Center, since that day. It was an amazing highlight in my life. Coming back to Perth after my 4 weeks in Oregon, I would daily reach for newspapers. No good internet back then for Australia. For day or 2-day-old box scores just to keep up on what was happening with my new passion. Over the next few years, I watched and read from afar, seeing the highs of LaMarcus, lows of Odin, and the highs and lows of Brandon Roy. Only in the last 5 years, I've been able to watch the games on the NBA website with the Portland Pass. We finally got internet in Australia that we can stream with. I never miss a game now. I'm constantly getting in trouble at work for looking at my phone for scores. The games start here in Perth in the morning between 9 and 11 a.m., which is a pretty good time for me when I have days off. It's been such a fun ride. And now with Dame, I'm hoping for a bright future and beyond. I'll finish with this. Let's go Blazers. That one's from Brett at Austin_Aussie on Twitter. If you want to reach out to Brett and thank Brett for sharing that story. Brett, thanks so much. This is a reminder of your Blazers joy. It can happen in a moment when you're going to a game or going to something, thinking that you are a fan of something else. It can grab you quickly and pull you in and become a lifelong obsession. The reminders of why we love this and why we care about it are so important. The reasons I started Moment of Joy, the idea of Moment of Joy, is because I want it to be that reminder of sort of either why we fell in love with the team or a moment we sort of cling to that brings us joy. For many of us, that's, the big playoff moments, Brandon Roy shot here, or a Kevin Duckworth moment, or, or Clyde Drexler or Rasheed Wallace and those early 2000s teams, or, I moved here in the fall. I moved to Portland in the fall of 2006. I loved a Zach Randolph jab step, just deliberate and stubborn and left-handed as hell. These are these moments that you kind of that pull you in and kind of connect you to a place. And it's nice, particularly when things are kind of rough and rugged around the edges of a place and a thing you love, to say, oh yeah, I remember why I fell in love. I was a kid visiting a friend somewhere far away, and I was hooked. The lights went out in the Moda Center or the Rose Garden, and I was hooked. I'm glad, Brett, that you were that moment is something that now, 2 decades later, that you can kind of tap back into. You can remember seeing Grant Hill in a suit and saying, man, I wish I saw him. You can remember seeing Derek Anderson and say oh, he's a big guard. How fun. Basketball is the thing that ties us here. It's why we're all here. You're listening this deep into the podcast. You're here. So cling tightly to these moments of joy, dear listeners. Cling tightly to them, because life and basketball fandom is challenging. So if you don't remind yourself and then hold tightly to the moments that bring you joy, you won't find much of it often. So again, thank you, Brett, so much for sharing that one. I have a couple more of these in the chamber. So if the Blazers season stays dark, we might share them. But if you want to share your Blazers moment of joy, I will save it for a rainy day. Brett sent this to me in October, and I've held on to it until December. So I keep them filed away. I know where they are, so I've got a couple more. But if you want to share one, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com is where you can share your Blazers moment of joy, whatever that means to you. Why you fell in love with the team, or a special moment, or something that you remember fondly, or kind of whatever. When I say Blazers moment of joy, whatever that might mean to you, it does not have to be Brett's. It can be any type of structure you want. Just using that as sort of the idea around it. So thanks again, Brett, and lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com if you want to share one. That's going to do it for today's show. Tomorrow, like I said, is going to be a mailbag episode. We do this each week, answering listener submitted questions all episode long. Tweet at me at Mike G. Rich, or send me an email, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com, and I will answer all your questions. Blazers play Tuesday night. They play the Suns. We'll have a recap of that game. Wednesday night, they play the Grizzlies. We'll recap that game. Jason Quick's going to join the show. It looks like Friday's show will be quickie, but we were still debating, so he might be on Thursday's show. No promises, but he'll be here at the end of the week. We got 5 shows each week, free wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. So tell your friends. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Help us to get to 2,000 subscribers by 2022. 2,000 subscribers by New Year's on YouTube. Go there right now. Just search Locked On Blazers on your YouTube app or on YouTube.com. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you soon.